How's life in Sydney?
Oh, it's pretty wet and wild at the moment. The storm came through a little while ago, but now it feels like it's quite nice now.
You're a director who's come on board to an existing franchise. I'm always interested. What's your creative process? Like, do you start with a clean slate, you can do whatever you want, or are you looking at all the other movies first to see what sort of worked and trying to incorporate some of those elements?
Well, I think my approach, I don't know anyone else's approach, but my approach is to become as familiar as I can with the world of the film, right? Because it's a franchise that's existed for 25 years, therefore it's rich, it's full of like incident and detail. And I think to me, it's like doubly important that because this is not a franchise about, a shapeshifter or a wizard or a woman who fights crime or breathes underwater. It's just about one woman's life living in a city as she sort of like goes through it. And so, I look back on 25 years of my life and I still have that stuff on my bookshelves. Do you know what I mean? I've still got, if there's a favorite t-shirt that I had 25 years ago, a good chance it's still in my closet, And so I wanted her world that we're building to feel real, and therefore it should have photos from the other films, and it should have little sly references and things hanging on the wall that might remind you of a different thing. That's how we live, I think.
And Renee Zellweger, I know she's a two-time Oscar-winning actress, but I always feel this is the role she's going to be best known for. And you got to work with her so closely here. I mean, what makes her the perfect fit for Bridget Jones?
Well, truly, she is Bridget Jones. I mean, like she's 25 years into it, and to my experience of her is actually like making this film with Bridget, as much as with Renee. But why was she so great for Bridget at the beginning? Is such a really interesting question, and I think it's just that Renee is the most. She's the least starry major Hollywood star I've ever come across. She is everything she does is one-on-one. She kind of dissolves the boundaries that you'd normally feel like, oh, there's that actor's really good, that's a big actor. She doesn't do any of that stuff. She talks to people real. She confesses things about her life. She laughs at herself. She likes to be close to people, and she makes people feel very close to her. And that's, I think, what Bridget reaches through the screen and actually makes people feel like they're friends with her. We are friends with Bridget. I think that part of her is all Renee.
And aside from Bridget, I mean, there's so many returning characters in this film as well, trying to balance all that up inside of 2 hours. Did you know how you're going to do that from the outset, or was there a lot of work that went into the editing of the film?
There's definitely editing work. The first cut that I was like, I've got it, was like 2 hours and 40 minutes. So, I'm no genius there. It takes time, to really actually understand. It's a process of, I think, at least for me, understanding what the 2 hour 40-minute version is so that it becomes a 2 hour and 30-minute version, which is just a better version. You know what I mean? You keep finding it and keep finding it. But that's one of the big advantages of this franchise. It's incredible. I mean, when you're listing the character actors that are in this, and you start talking about Gemma Jones and Jim Broadbent, and then you get to Sarah Soleimani, Sally Phillips, Shirley Henderson alone is an unbelievably talented actress. I haven't even talked about Emma Thompson yet. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's ridiculous. It's absurd.
And what about like Colin Firth as Mr. Darcy? I'm not giving anything away. I mean, we know in the trailer and so forth that he's passed away prior to the events of this film, but he is incorporated visually into the film. What was behind that decision?
Yeah, for me, it's really important that, and to find a way to see him, and more importantly, to feel him, if you know what I mean, to feel his presence in the film. It's a really major part of what this film is about. I mean, Mark, I gathered that there's some diehard, like, wonderful fans of the franchise are like, you can't make a Bridget Jones without Colin Firth, and I would say to them, well, that's the point. That's what she's going through. Like, how can she figure it out? And to also let people know, Mark Darcy's a wildly important part of this film. Like, the idea of him, as it were, is all over it. So yeah, it was very important to me to actually see and sort of and understand their relationship on screen here for a bit.
And Leo Woodall, he feels like he's getting his kind of breakout moment. He's got the prime Target show on TV. Now he's got this. How did he come across your radar and make you think he's the right fit for this character?
It was just, he hadn't even, he's known now, like, properly for that Netflix series he did One Day, which he was absolutely
Yeah.
brilliant. But One Day hadn't come out when we were starting the casting process. So it was really just White Lotus that he did. And White Lotus to me, he just jumped out of that series. He was so kind of grounded and charismatic and just unapologetic. Do you know what I mean? Which is very rare for an actor. Oftentimes, you have a sense that an actor is, wants to be seen a certain way or wants to be liked or is asking to be like. Leo didn't have any of that. He was just like, this is me, and I really wanted that for Rockstar. So he was my first and only choice.
And Helen Fielding, who created the character in the first place, she's been a screenwriter on all the films. She's a screenwriter again here. I'd love to know how hands-on, or hands-off is she in terms of the film itself?
No, it's great because she obviously created the whole world and the characters. So she's like the author of this whole thing. And then she wrote the book, of course, on which this was based, and she wrote, screenplay and collaborated with two other great writers, Dan and Abby. But really, she's been around this process for so long now that she completely, understands that you make a film, and any director who comes in, it then becomes about like tailoring, the film to suit what it's actually ultimately going to be, like what the style of it is, like what the emphasis is, what the audience is going to experience. And so it became, it's a very collaborative process all around.
And I guess I'll finish up by asking, what are you working on at the moment? What's next for Michael Morris?
Well, we'll see. Film-wise, there's some really interesting films, but films are just like these like fragile little delicate like figurines. And I find that the moment you kind of mention them, they fall apart and like burst out into a million pieces. So, but I've got a couple of stories that I definitely want to tell.
All right, well, we won't jinx anything, but in the meantime, we can enjoy Bridget Jones, Mad About the Boy. Michael, thanks for chatting with us.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Cheers.